Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to be getting started on a MacBook that's not powering on. Here we have what looks like an A1707. This is a 2016 through 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro. Let's get it under the camera, open this thing up, and see if we can get it to work again. This case really doesn't want to come off. I hate these cases, not just for all the dirt that winds up getting inside of them. They're disgusting. But it's also they crack really easily. And then the customer says, "You cracked my case. I want you to order me a new case that's full of dirt." Ugh. It's gross. Hate these cases. I see something that makes me want to cry. I see something here that makes me want to cry. This makes me puke. Are you ready? So, this computer has a connector put on over the screw. So as you can see, on the right side is the screwing this cover over the connector. On the left side, they put the screw in first and then this over it. That actually ruined me. That kind of set a bad tone for the stream. I'm really sad now. Wow. Okay. Something tells me this MacBook is going to have more wrong with it than what is usually wrong. Can anybody guess why I'm making the assumption that there's going to be more wrong with this MacBook than what's usually wrong? I like to unplug the battery so that when I plug in the charger, I can see the amperage that the board is taking by itself. I can get a nice isolated measurement of just what the board's taking. And I plug my USB-C amp meter into my USB-C charger before I plug it into the MacBook. This is going to tell me a couple of things. How many amps is the board using? It's also going to tell me if the charge controllers are activating the CD32, are activating the USB-C charger and getting it to turn on. And on this board, as you can see, it's taking 5 volts at 20 milliamps, which means that the machine is not activating the USB-C charger. This can put out 5 volts to charge a GoPro, 9 volts to charge a LG G8 phone, or 20 volts to charge a MacBook. And those chips are supposed to communicate with this. Thank you, David Stahl. I don't drink coffee, but I will put that towards the new store fund. Thank you very much. So, where was I? So this chip, the CD3215, and the ones on the other side of the board, they're going to communicate with the charger, but they're not able to. So let's try and figure out why they're not able to. We're just going to open this thing up. I think that just killed the MacBook, folks. That just killed a MacBook. Let's open up the schematic in board view so I can show you what that is. Watch as the Paul Daniels software opens it vertically. So it looks like we've got corrosion on this resistor. That's PP3V3 UPC-XA LDO, so that's an LDO voltage that's created by the CD3215, which is the USB-C port controller. And that is going to be for a data line. That's a pull-up resistor on a data line. And that's a data line that is going to speak to a JTAG connector. So that doesn't exist. Now, I don't think that resistor having corrosion on it really matters, because that's a pull-up resistor for a data line for something to speak to something that doesn't actually exist, because that JTAG connector is not populated on the board. A JTAG connector is going to be something like this, where you could have a connector and you could plug some external thing in to communicate with the board. So you could see that they put pads on the board for it here, but it's not actually used for anything, so it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that that's an indication of corrosion being under the CD3215 itself. So if we try to clean that up, you're going to notice that this board is far too heavily populated with pubes from my Q-tip and alcohol to actually fix or get rid of that number of pubes. So we're going to use the X-Acto and see if we can scrape away some of those pubes. And I'm going to give this a light reflow with a little bit of flux, just a tiny amount, not too much. We're looking to conserve flux. So I hear that Paul Daniels adjusted the pricing of his software from $79 to $149, so that this way he can hire a full-time developer with the extra money to fix all the bugs in the software. I'm happy that he's made that decision. That thing does need full-time bug fixing. Now that resistor to the left is nasty, but you have to keep in mind that the purpose of that resistor is to communicate with an empty JTAG connector that has no reason to exist. So you'll excuse me if I don't think that resistor has a lot of purpose on this board, given that its sole purpose for existing is going to be to allow this chip to communicate with a port that doesn't even exist. Now I know there may be some purists out there that are aggravated that I'm taking that data line and I'm not putting it back where it belongs. And if that's the case, if you would like that your CD3215s on your MacBook after spill damage continue to have access to a data line that goes to an empty board connector that doesn't do anything, you might just in fact be looking for another repair service, because mine may not be the repair service for you. That being said, let's see if this turns on with our reflow. Might as well be nice and make that cap a little nicer on the outside. I'm not going to be able to get to the bottom of that actually without removing the cap or removing the CD3215. So we'll leave that for later. I'm going to let the board rapid cool using rapid cool technology. So as you can see here, we have a green light. I'm so used to saying that. We have 20 volts in the charger, and it's using 1.4 amps, which means this is booting up. So I'm going to plug this in to a screen so that you can see that we're getting an image and it's booting up. And just to trigger some of you out there that are die-hard perfectionists, I am not going to put the pull-up resistor back on the board that allows the machine to communicate with a non-existing port. You know, I've actually had customers in the past call me and say, after you fixed my motherboard, my machine was heavier. And they were serious. They would... It's like... Yeah, I used about 6 pounds of lead solder when I reballed your SMC. That's what... But I'm curious if this customer calls me and says, Lewis, you know, since you worked on my MacBook, I noticed it's a little bit lighter. Did you put all the resistors back? No, I made it thinner, bro. Apple tries to make the shits thinner every single year. I just save them 0.000000000 micrograms. I will not put it back. Delete 1, 2, 3. Paul, would you put back a resistor that goes to allows the CD3215 to speak with a JTAG connector that's not soldered to the board?
Yes.
Why?
Does it go anywhere else?
Literally goes to the JTAG.
Why was it there?
Because Apple intended to put a JTAG there so that they could program the CD3215 using some machine at the factory that clearly doesn't even work or exist because there's no JTAG. There's pads for a JTAG connector, but there's no JTAG. Okay, so this boots. So it looks like we had corrosion by a CD3215. We rehotted it. And it works. Now that really seems to be all it was. And there was the wrong screw in the... It was the right screw in the right hole, but wrong order. They put the screw and then the connector, and then that blew my mind. But either way, this works. So we're going to put this through a nice ultrasonic cleaning process. After the ultrasonic cleaning is done, we will reassemble, test, and bring back to the customer. Are any of you surprised at just how little liquid it takes to kill a MacBook? That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.